All right, so today I wanted to talk to you about hiring a lawyer when you're in the middle of a separation. So I'll just give you a little, this is my experience with hiring a lawyer. Anyways, I just wanted to give you a little uh, information because this is a crazy process and an expensive one. And honestly, I didn't really know what I was getting myself into when I hired my lawyer. So I just want to give you kind of a background on like why I decided to hire a lawyer, what's been going on, and where I see it moving forward, and if I think it was a good idea to, in fact, hire a lawyer. All right, so a little bit of background. So, my ex and I separated in October of 2022, and it was not until January of this year, 2024, when I decided to retain a lawyer. And the reasoning behind that is because we had a few unsettled things that, like issues that we were not going to be able to settle on our own because we had very different viewpoints, and it just wasn't. I knew that we could not work it out between each other. So I'll tell you what those three things are because they're probably a main pain point in a lot of people's separations. And also, we'll say we have a pretty simple separation. Like, um, we didn't have any assets. We sold our house before we separated. Like, we didn't have anything to split up. So what our three main issues are is I child support. Um, just we differ on what the amount should be, so we need someone to settle that for us because we will never come to an agreement on that. So child support, we have a joint line of credit that um, I don't use at all. It's in both of our names, but he has the credit card that goes with it. He pretty much confiscated mine back in October of 2022, so I couldn't use it because the deal was that he was going to pay it down. He was going to take on our debt. Well, that has not happened, and he continues to use it whenever he can and pays off just the minimum balance. So it's basically the same amount as it was when we separated 2 years ago. So that doesn't fly with me either. I want to get my half of that line of credit in my name only. He can have his half in his name only, and we can pay that off. And that I he he needs to make the moves to do that. I can't do that. So we differ on that issue because he's for some reason unwilling to put his half in his name. So, and the third issue is a parenting schedule. I want a parenting schedule. It's only been this summer that I wrote out a schedule because he the first year and a half he was unable to take our children overnight. Where he was living, he could not have them overnight. Well, he got his own apartment in June. So I made out a summer schedule for July that he would take them overnight because I was sick and tired of these last minute, like, oh, I'll pick them up in an hour. Like, just last minute things that really, like, annoyed me because if I had plans with them, I'd have to break them so they could go to their dad, because if I said no, they can't go to their dad, I'm the bad guy. You know what I mean? So I was tired of being the bad guy all the time, so I made out a schedule and we've been following it and it's been working well, but it's not great. Like, our time, like, it's not perfect, and I want a hard and fast schedule that we can both follow that is fair to both of us. And I don't believe if we sat down and did it, we would come to an agreement because we again differ on that. But the summer has been good, I will say that. So those are the main things. Let me summarize. Child support, splitting our line of credit so that we each have half in our own names, not joint anymore. It's the only thing that we have a joint, and I don't want it. And a parenting schedule. So pretty straightforward. So I thought. So continuing on with my background, in January of 2024, this year, I sought out a lawyer, and I paid a $3,000 retainer. And I naively thought that that would be enough to settle this because it was really simple. Like, by law, he owes child support, and there's an amount that he should be paying by law. So I thought that was going to be pretty easy to settle. A parenting plan is pretty standard in a separation agreement. And this line of credit, all he has to do is like go to the bank and figure it out. So I thought it would be settled pretty easily. Well, so that was in January, early January, that I did that I got a lawyer. And so to settle for child support. We both had to disclose our finances, and I did that in March, I think, because like I could have done it sooner. I had it all ready to go, but we were waiting for him and his lawyer to disclose his finances. Well, he never did. So I disclosed mine first so that, like there's no excuse why he shouldn't disclose his. And it wasn't until um was it June or July? I think it was July of this year, 2024, where he disclosed his um finances. So here's a word of advice. If you're dealing with an uncooperative spouse, and I'll put in all my bills, because I think the first set of bills was until April from my lawyer, which is still using the fees off the retainer. And I got a recent bill just a few days ago that I'm going to put in. I'll show you also of how much is left of my retainer after we got his finances. So he finally disclosed his financial status, and all that is pay stubs and like your pay stubs and your notice of assessments. I'm in Canada, so it's like your tax refunds for the last 3 years. It really isn't difficult to obtain. So, um, so I got my first bill from the lawyer in April, and already almost $1,000 of my retainer was eaten up. That was just back and forth to the lawyer and to me as well a little bit, but mostly back and forth to his lawyer trying to get disclosure. $1,000. Okay, and I just got my new bill, and since we got financial disclosure, um, he still it wasn't paying child support, so they had to apply to the court and get a court date, and um, so just getting a court date. Okay, so I have a court date in October, and that's just a scheduling hearing. My lawyer told me I don't even need to be there. So this is like to schedule an actual court date. This is like it's a court date, but it doesn't do anything. We still need others to settle child support and those other issues that we have. And as of now, I have like $500 left of my retainer. So it's cost $2,500 just to get financial disclosure and a preliminary court date. Now, what I had kind of thought was that this 3,000 would cover the whole thing. So I thought that was kind of a lot of money, and I could see in a more um, like difficult divorce or more complicated divorce. Like if we were even common law, so it's not even a divorce. This is like a separation. It's easier than if we were than if we were actually married and we had no assets. So there was no fighting over division of assets. We're honestly fighting over debt, which is stupid. And it's almost all of my retainer. I bet by the time we go to court, my retainer will be eaten up and I'll be paying more out of pocket for this whole court, well, however much that's going to cost. So that's my experience with a lawyer, hiring a lawyer with an uncooperative spouse. Now, what my advice is if your spouse is at all willing to talk about finances and child support and anything else that's important to you both, talk about it, try to work it out first, and then go to a lawyer to finalize and make things official, right? Because like draw up an actual agreement that's law abiding, but use a lawyer for that. Sure, pay whatever they pay. Wouldn't be a horrible amount. You wouldn't have to pay a retainer. It would just be to make everything official. But if you're dealing with an uncooperative spouse, even though if your separation is simple, it's going to cost a lot of money, and it's already costing. Like I said, my retainer is almost eaten up on basically accomplishing nothing, and it's frustrating. It's an emotional roller coaster. It's not fun. It's nothing that I wanted to do. Like that's why I didn't go to a lawyer for almost like a year and a half after we were separated. I never wanted to go to a lawyer. I thought we could actually be adults and handle it ourselves, and clearly we can't. And it's not fun. It's awful. And then when you see your spouse with the kid, like you have to pretend that everything's okay with the kids. Like you have to pretend you actually like your spouse, which I can't even do anymore. I mostly try to not see him even when he picks up the kids. I have them all ready to go and just like shoo them out the door so that I don't have to even look at them, because that is becoming increasingly difficult knowing what he's doing, and he's doing it on purpose. He knows what he's doing. He knows that he's purposely taking a long time just to eat up all of my retainer so that, well, mostly he doesn't want to pay child support, but that's a whole other issue. And, you know, if you have an uncooperative ex, they can pretty much do what they want and eat up your money. So that's my experience with a lawyer. Having knowing all this and knowing how expensive it is and how much like just dragging your feet can be so expensive and eat away at your retainer, would I hire a lawyer again? In my case, yes, because it will be worth it in the end. I believe, I hope. Um, if but if like we could actually talk to each other, me and my ex, like human beings, and work things out, I would much rather do that. I would do that 100% over going to court, because my stomach is in knots already and we're not even in court yet. But just the thought of having to go to court and putting this up in front of a judge like is nerve wracking. It's scary. It's nothing that I ever wanted to do, and it's hard on your emotional well-being. So there you have it. That's my experience hiring a lawyer. Like I said, I would do it again, but I'm just trying to educate and let you know what you're in for. And again, I'm in Canada, so maybe other countries are different, but I don't think so. I think it's expensive no matter where you live. So even if you think it's going to be a simple divorce or simple separation, it just might not be if the other side decides to be very uncooperative. So that's pretty much all I have to say. Please leave any questions or comments down below. I'd be glad to answer it. Yeah, try to work it out between the two, like 100%. That's what I recommend if you can. If yeah, need to use a lawyer, do it as a last resort and save up your money, because it's going to cost more than you think it is. And yeah, that's about it. So thanks for listening, and yeah, leave your comments and questions down below. I'd be happy to answer them, and I'll see you in the next one.